Sometimes the most freeing thing you can do is nothing. Let them. Let them not value you. Let them stay small. Let them walk away. The power is in what you do next. This one's a little personal. For years, I stayed in spaces, relationships, environments that didn't see me, didn't support me, and certainly didn't value me. I thought if I worked harder, proved myself more, or kept the peace, things would change. Spoiler, they didn't. And the day I decided to stop trying to convince someone of my worth was the day I started to step into who I really am. And I wouldn't be here without that. So, when you're ready, grab a cup of coffee and come get uncomfortable with me. Hey, welcome back to the My Inner Struggle podcast. I'm your host, Laura Ferry. This is episode 72 and a very personal one, I might add. But before I get into it, I just want to welcome you for being here. Wherever you are watching or listening, if you could hit subscribe, that would be awesome. And a like and share it with a friend if what I'm saying today resonates with you and might resonate with somebody that you care about that's in your life. Today's kind of a personal story, and I'm not going to say particulars because I don't want to make anyone upset, but it's about sort of letting go, practicing that let them theory by Mel Robbins, which is an awesome book, and I recommend it to everyone that I meet, essentially. It connected so many dots for me in all of these various relationships. She did a really beautiful job of giving great examples, everything from, your relationships with your kids to your spouse to making friends, as an adult later in life, to those work kind of issues and everything in between. And it's really an awesome book. So if you have not read that yet, I would encourage you to do so if you're in that point in your journey. And if you're not there yet, put it on your radar. But it connected so many dots for me. In fact, I'm probably going to read it again. When I listened to the audiobook in the beginning, and then I did it and I finished it. And the very next day I started it again, and then I bought the hard copy. And it was really powerful in that letting people be who they are allows you to be yourself too. So it's not like a passive, like, oh, fuck them. I'm not going to pay attention to that. It's more of like, okay, I'm going to let them do their thing so that I can do my thing. Because when somebody shows you who they are, you need to believe them. If somebody's not showing up for you, believe that, because actions speak louder than words. We can talk and talk and talk and talk about all of the things that we want to do for the people around us, but until we start taking action on those things, nothing changes. So this episode is kind of about being who you are, and I wanted to touch on some points because I sort of have been going through something myself in the last few weeks that I'm realizing is a whole new level of growth. And I went backpacking a few weeks ago with 4 total strangers, which was really fucking cool, for a weekend. And we covered some miles and did a lot of cool things together, a lot of, discussion, some reflection, and stuff like that. But as I walked into the woods, and if you don't know anything about what I was doing, go to myinnerstruggle.com and click on the latest blog. And that's sort of my journey getting there, which was really interesting. So I had this day-long kind of craziness getting to the location to go on the hike. And as I was going into the woods, one of the women asked me, "What are you looking to get out of this?" And without even thinking about it, I said, "I've been holding resentment towards someone, and I don't know why it's surfacing now, and I need to figure that out." And she's like, "Well, this seems like the perfect place to do that." And as I went into the woods, it was a Friday afternoon, I never really thought about it. I never really thought about any of that issue, really. It didn't really, I just took the space and sat in the silence and really just reflected on myself. And while we did share, I feel like that was a quieter version of Laura, without a doubt. A lot of reflection, a lot of facing yourself in truth. And I think I walked out of the woods forgiving myself for things that I didn't really think that were still there, and understanding my worth in that particular relationship. And it was really interesting. After I got in the car, I drove back, bawled my eyes out for a little bit, and then a friend called me and we talked for quite a while, and that was really insightful. And I had said, I think I'm going to make this step in this direction towards this figuring out what it is that's going on in this scenario or this relationship, and the fact that I don't I no longer need to punish myself for that, that I forgive myself for anything, and that I am worth forgiveness. I am worth love. I am worth all of those things. And so when I approached it, instead of trying to get him to value me, I decided to let him not value me. And the response that I got was truly that. And it was very emotional and angry. And I fell apart in the beginning, but I chose to value myself instead, because that bullshit behind that response is just that. It's not a reflection of who I am. It's their stuff that they're holding on to. And so once you can ground yourself in who you are, you can act with clarity. It was hard to accept the fact that I wasn't valued for so long, but it's nothing that I didn't realize or know in that time. But now, 6 years later, I'm realizing how little I was valued that entire time. And I redirected the energy into myself instead, and I let that go and let myself sort of move forward. And it's not easy. It's not. It's a challenge, but when you understand that it's bigger, or it literally has nothing to do, I don't want to say to do with you, because it doesn't really have to. It is their stuff. So anytime that you receive something in anger or angst, you have to really think about like where that person is, and you can only meet somebody where they are. And if they haven't done any work, then that's where they are, and not moving forward. I think that once that happened, once I basically used my voice for the first time in my whole adult life in that relationship, it was very freeing, and it was very emotional afterwards. I don't know, where the future will bring me in that essence, but I think that was a lot to do with my healing journey and kind of going through it. And if you don't go through it, then you don't really get to the other side, obviously, right? We have to get through the mud and all the icky and crappy stuff in order to get to the other side. So I think the clarity came for me in no longer negotiating my worth in that scenario. I've grown in so many other places, but this is the first time that I used my voice in that instance. And it was met with a lot of resistance and anger and emotion. And that makes sense, because that's where they are. And I've done so much to move forward in life that it's not even, I think I thought I would get a different kind of response, considering all the bullshit that I've been through and all of the strides that I made. But I realized that that person isn't really capable of that. And that's the part that hurt a little bit, but that is not mine to carry. So regardless of that, I want to talk about being who you are, because being who you are is really important. And I think that I have some members in the Self-Love Club, and I've talked about it before in my book and in the podcast and in the blog, is when I got to the point where I started the blog, my mother had passed away, and I had just had my youngest daughter, and I was losing my job that I loved very dearly. And that was my first ticket to independence. That was my goal, just to have that option of being able to support myself. It was like everything was crumbled in one foul swoop. And that's when the My Inner Struggle blog was born, because I had gone through all of that as a mom, as a daughter, as a wife, as an employee, and all of that was being like ripped out from underneath me, and I didn't know who the fuck I was. So a client recently said, like, I don't know who I am. How the hell do I even figure out who I am? And the first thing that I'm going to say is that you start trying different things. When I was getting divorced and I talked to my therapist, and I said, I don't think I'm really going to date. And she goes, I think that you should, because I think you need to learn some things about yourself. And so we learn by people asking questions if we're not asking them ourselves, right? So I went on a lot of first dates, and I learned an incredible amount about myself and where I was. And, there's only so many times that, you can kind of like fudge an answer when you're like, what do you like to do for fun? I'm like, I don't fucking know. I've been a mom forever and just going through the grind and trying to survive and paying bills and carrying the weight of everything on my shoulders. And I don't know what I like to do for fun for myself. And so you just start kind of thinking about it, and then you take that space, and then you discover, you try different things, whether it's in a creative sense, which I strongly encourage because I think that brings out so much in you. And there's going to be things that you like and you're like, yeah, or that you try and you're like, yeah, I'm good. Once was great. But like running in races was something that I had started trying to do on my own prior to my divorce and things like that. A mud run, just trying to push yourself to those other limits physically and mentally, because most of what we struggle with is mental, not necessarily the physical. We all have so much more physical capability than we even realize. It's just that our head is in the way of getting us to it. And Audrey actually had said that to me beautifully during a hike or after a hike or on a call or something like that. Audrey is CEO of Deep Rooted Wellness, and she actually was the guide on the backpacking trip that I think I'm going to do again, quite honestly. It was incredible. And the week coming out of that, first, I was addressing that issue with that person. And that really took a lot out of me, which is why I'm talking today about letting them and then moving forward. But I was back on the first day and I texted Audrey and I was like, I want to go back. I don't belong here. There's something so awesome about staying in the woods for multiple days at a time and just kind of roughing it and not worrying about, all the bullshit. And the greatest thing, I think, walking away from that was not having cell service for like a day and a half. And it wasn't even like I wasn't taking space from anyone in particular, but not even having to think about it. Because there's a big difference between not using your phone, just putting it away, and not being able to use your phone. Like it's not even an option. And that was incredible. And I think that going into the woods gave me my voice back in this scenario. I've grown in so many other ways for so many years, building my business and dealing with the bullshit of people around you, other business owners that might not have your back or make like kind of weird, snide remarks, things like that. And, all of that kind of rounds out to let them be jealous or pissed off or insecure about whatever it is they're doing. We're not even doing the same thing. So just give me a break here. I'm a single mom trying to make it, building something I believe in and truly headed in the right direction. Let them be cranky. Who the fuck cares? It's okay. Let them so I can let me, and just keep the inner peace within yourself. So let's talk a little bit about finding or being who you are. It's hard. It requires shedding lots of roles and expectations that we've been performing at for years, really. It means no more shrinking to make others uncomfortable. It's meaning it's okay to say no if it's not serving you, if it's not serving your goals or your future. I know one of the big things when I was in my earlier years of being single was going out with some friends and being pressured to drink. And I didn't really want to. I don't want to be in a position where I would have to drive. I didn't want to do it, but being included in that group meant being part of that. And that's like one of those tough things. And so eventually I just started saying, no, I'm not going to drink. And you were definitely given a hard time sometimes. And now I just don't really. And I'm totally cool with that. It doesn't, and in one sense, and if you're, around my age, I'm 43, but it was probably 5 or 6 years ago that it just started not making you feel good, because it dehydrates you. It's not giving you anything for your body. But that was one area where I felt like I needed to fit in. And I know there are other people that feel the same way. You don't feel good when you do it or after you do it, and that it's not helping your body. You're not taking care of your body. And at the end of it, you kind of hate yourself the next day for not standing within your boundary and not saying no. By being yourself, You're saying yes to what you want. You're standing in that confidence and making sure that you're only saying yes to the things that feel aligned of where you want to go and doing what matters to you most. If you're on a limited budget and friends are asking you to go out to dinner or something like that, and it's not really serving you, or you're really tired, it's okay to say no. You can honor yourself in that. I want you to think about, once you're grounded in who you are, and the next steps are becoming more clear, you take action, but you make it aligned with where you want to go. There is this saying, and I'm probably going to mess it up right now, but it's kind of like the five people closest to you kind of like make up who you are, right? So if they're all behind you, then you really need to look at your circle. Not that you can't associate with them, but you need to be around people that are supporting your future, not your past. And look at the things that you actually care about when you're your fullest self. Because once I made this decision for myself and my worth, when I got out of the woods, things like shifted, and I obtained like 3 new clients in a week. And now I'm hiring people to help because there's more work than there are hours in a day, which is really cool. But I don't know that I would have gotten there if I didn't really step into my own worthiness 100%. And you're here to build something that's yours. It doesn't have to be a business. It can be your personal life. Not everybody wants to be in business, and I realize that. That's why this is more than business. You're here to build something that belongs to you, that speaks to you, your life. This is your story at the end of the day. It's your story, not the person next to you, not your spouse, not your children. It is your story, and it's not selfish to put yourself first. It's encouraged and necessary in order to get through life. Who wants to get halfway through life and realize, like, I've never done anything for myself. I've never stood up for myself, and I'm constantly violating my own boundaries. It's time to start stepping into your confidence and getting somewhere, because fuck, you're worth it. I want to leave you with a few sort of like notes. And I know this is like another kind of pep talk, but you are entitled to have the life that you've always wanted. This is when the abundance shows up. When you step into your whole self, that is when the abundance shows up. When you are taking care of yourself, when you are pouring into your own cup, doing your morning rituals and routines, and you're exercising and taking care of yourself and drinking your water, you're attracting the right clients, you're attracting the right partners, you're attracting the right kind of ease. And not, it's like fake it until you make it. That's not what I'm talking about. You have to step into what it is that you want and actually live that life, embody that practice, because you didn't chase it, you became it. And that is when you start attracting the right things around you. As a reminder, because sometimes we need the reminder, you do not have to make yourself more palatable to be successful. Be exactly who you are. You don't need to be less to build wealth. You don't need to be less to build wealth. And you're not behind, you're not broken, you're building. And that's okay. Just remember who the hell you are. Who was that person that lit that spark? What were they doing? What do you like to look at? At the end of the day, what do you want to walk away with it at the end of the day? What is that feeling? Sometimes the most freeing thing you can do is nothing. Let them do their thing, and then let yourself move forward. Let them not value you. That really hurt. I wasn't valued that entire time, and that sucks. But I know my worth now. Let them stay small. Let them walk away. The power is in what you do next. I hope this resonated with you. And if you have any comments or questions or things that you want covered on the podcast or the blog, please shoot me a message. I'd love to hear from you. I'm so happy that you're here with me. Be sure to check out lauraferry.com, where you can find the Self-Love Club. Join this month, actually, for only $5, because the Self-Love Club has just turned 1 year old. And you'll also get a copy of my journal, my daily journal, just for saying thank you and happy birthday to the Self-Love Club. Also at lauraferry.com, you can find My Inner Struggle, which is the blog, the podcast, and my book, which is really taking shape in the audience that it's reaching. So that's really cool. And also the Growth Leader. If you are a business owner and you're interested in growing your business, finding the right people for the right seats, whether it's financial management, admin related tasks, and social media management, check out the Growth Leader. As always, I am thinking of you and sending you love, and I will see you soon.